Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to talk about answering inference questions about short dialogues in the listening section of the TOEFL test. Before I get started, I'd like you to take a look at these key vocabulary that you should be familiar with in order to understand what I talk about in the video. So I would like you to pause the video at this time, and for any words you are unfamiliar with, I'd like you to look up those words in the dictionary. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video at this time. Okay, now that you have become familiar with any of the vocabulary that you did not know before, that will help you to understand what I talk about in the rest of the video. So let's talk about making inferences. To begin with, what is an inference? Well, an inference is basically something that's not directly stated but is clearly implied. When we infer something, we make a logical guess about the meaning. We can correctly infer things by paying attention to context especially. So I want you to imagine a couple of examples. Let's pretend that you're sitting in a room and it's very hot in the room and you're sitting next to a window and somebody says to you, "Gee, it's really hot in here." What do you think that they would like you to do? Well, because you're sitting next to the window, they might want you to open the window. However, that's not what they say. They just say it's really hot in here. So they are indirectly asking you to open the window in this case. Another example might be you're walking down the street and you pass by a restaurant and your friend asks you, "Do you think this restaurant is open?" Or you ask your friend that and then he or she replies, "Well, the lights are off." Well, in this case, what they want to say is that the restaurant is probably closed. However, that's not what they're directly saying. Inference questions on the TOEFL can take a few different forms. The narrator, who is the person who asks the questions, might say, "What does the man or woman imply?" Or they might say, "What can be inferred from the conversation?" However, many times they will simply say, "What does the man mean?" or something like, "Where does the conversation take place?" The test involves making inferences all the time, and it's very important to understand what is meant in a specific question in order to answer the question correctly, which often involves making inferences. So let's take a quick look at an example from the test. Um, I'm just going to let you read this for a second and then I'll briefly discuss why choice A is actually the correct answer here. So looking at these options and from the information in the dialogue, it can be inferred that A is correct because the first bus is going north, but the man must take a bus going in the opposite direction to get to the art museum. Choice B is incorrect. It is possible to get to the museum by bus, and there's no information about C, and choice D can't be true because Bank Street is where the first bus is going. Okay, so I'd like to talk about just some more information about inferences on the TOEFL test. There are a lot of inference questions on the TOEFL. Actually, about 20% are directly involving inference questions. However, I would like to tell you that a far larger percentage of the questions on the TOEFL involve making inferences. Inferences are something we do every day in real life because people often don't directly say what they want to express or what they want to tell you to do or what they would like to ask you. We use indirect language all the time, and that involves making inferences. So some things you can do to help improve your ability to make inferences include listening outside of class as much as possible to authentic materials in English. These could be radio, movies, TV shows, things like that. On the TOEFL test, you want to make sure to focus on the function and the meaning of what people say. What are they doing with the language that they're using? So don't focus so much on individual words. Also, of course, completing these TOEFL listening practice exercises can help you improve your ability to make inferences. So now it is practice time. What I would like you to do is pause the video, open up the audio track titled TOEFL Inference Questions Practice, which you can find on our Canvas page, and then complete the practice questions using the handout that you received in class. After you finish answering the questions, you can press play on this video to continue, and you can check your answers. Okay, I hope you're ready. So pause the video and practice. Okay, now that you've finished the questions, I'd like you to check your answers real quick. I hope you got all of these questions correct, but if you did not, do not worry too much. That is why we are practicing. Let me give a brief explanation of why the answer is each letter that is indicated here for each question. So on question number 3, this involves making an inference about the location of the conversation, which is taking place in an airport. D is the correct answer because take off means basically the same as depart. So you have to understand synonyms and use those to answer the question correctly. Question number 4 involves making an inference about whether or not the man has begun working on the project, and the answer to that one is A. Hasn't begun means the same thing as have to start. There's also some sound confusion going on in this, which we'll talk about in another video. Number 8 was A also, and 8 involves making an inference about whether or not the man has found housing. So if we listen carefully, we can infer that the man has probably not found housing yet, and that he's on a budget, that he's not rich. We can infer a lot of things about this. In number 12, which the answer to is A, we make an inference about the weather, the fact that it's raining outside, and we have to imagine that the rain is quite unusual because it's raining so much and that this has not happened for many years. Question number 15 involves making an inference about whether or not the man Paul needed to work in the library, and the answer to that one was D. And in question 22, we have to make an inference about the cost of the repairs. Question 22 also involves some sound confusion, which again I will talk about in another video. So to review, an inference is something that isn't directly stated but is clearly implied. Usually this is some kind of indirect language where somebody says one thing but actually means something different. To infer correctly, we need to make a logical guess many times. And to improve your ability to make inferences, you should try to listen to authentic materials outside of class, focus on the function and meaning of what people say, focus on the overall message instead of individual words, and complete the TOEFL listening practice exercises from this class. So I will see you in class and we will talk more about inferences then. Have a good day.